So as someone like myself who has grown up my entire life being a physical game collector, I can absolutely see the writing on the wall when you see things like Nintendo Switch games being released. There's no manuals in games anymore. Slowly, the packaging has become smaller and smaller. Some of that due to the media form factor actually changing, and now it's being down to these very small cartridge size games that are on the Switch. But it's funny to me every time I open up a physical game box and see the little clips where you could put some kind of art book, something explaining the game and the features and how it works, but companies realizing that that is essentially just wasted space and wasted materials and money at the end of the day, and they choose not to include it. And there are all these little hints, as well as a large amount of games that come out on the eShop that are only sold as digital releases, and we never see them outside of sometimes bigger releases getting noticed by companies like Limited Run Games. But it is quite obvious to me that digital games and their purchase rates are exceeding while physical is going down. And in today's video, we have to look at a very fascinating article around the true sales data for digital versus physical in 2022 as a whole, and talk about what this means as a Nintendo Switch fan in 2023 when it comes to the possibility of a all digital gaming future. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon if you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, today we are having a broad conversation of the state of gaming in 2023 based off of the sales results and data that we have now finalized in the year of 2022 around the trends on how people are picking up their games nowadays, because clearly we have seen a massive shift in the way that all media is consumed, including movies and music, before games really leading the charge in the digital only based environment. And you still have things like movie collectors out there and music collectors out there that do go out of their way to pick up those things physically, but they are definitely in the minority at this point. And most people, if they can stream something and maybe not even have to purchase it as a full price transaction, they will go that route. And we are definitely seeing Microsoft target that subscription based model for gaming with Xbox Game Pass, essentially them targeting that marketplace for being the Netflix of games, quote unquote. And I truly believe that they believe that that is the future of where this industry is headed. And while there should always be the option to pick up games physically, there very well may be consoles in the next couple generations that are just sold as digital only options, as we see the mid step right now with consoles like the PlayStation 5 having a disc-based version and a digital-only based for $100 cheaper. The Xbox Series X is the main flagship, but the less powerful model of the Xbox Series S is a digital-only option, and these companies absolutely love it when you pick up a digital-only console because they control the entire sale and they are getting a portion of the revenue that you spend out of your wallet when you are buying something from their store. There is also no production and shipping cost involved when it comes to getting these things to retailers, and guess what? The retailers don't have to take a cut of the sale price when it is sold direct to consumer. So it is no secret that every single company, being Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, the major names in the gaming space right now, they absolutely want everything to go digital at some point in time. And as a physical game collector, while I am not a fan of that, there is some undeniable data on how consumers are choosing to purchase their games nowadays. And I really want to go over this together and get on the same page with where we are at today and where we are likely headed going forward. So to do that, let's quickly hop over to this interesting article typed up over on My Nintendo News, where it says the following: 72% of console games sold in 2022 were digital versus physical. Data analytics firm Newzoo has revealed in a newly published report that 72% of video games sold on consoles during 2022 were digital, while boxed video games accounted for 28%. Nintendo doesn't generally provide digital sales for its first-party games, so if they weren't included within this report, as I suspect, then the digital video game sales would have been even higher than the figure provided. Digital is clearly the most convenient way for most people to acquire their games, and sometimes the cheapest due to both sales and promotions, though you can generally get boxed games such as new releases, etc. cheaper if you shop around various retailers such as Amazon and other gaming retailers. Now you can then see the following graph from gamesindustry.biz where it shows the total revenue generated from game sales as a whole, and then an interesting point, which I think PC gamers have known this for a long time, but it is a 2% boxed versus 98% digital purchase market on the PC. And of course, again, in a graph you can see where it comes to the console market, 28% to 72% of total game sales in 2022. That is the split of where we were at last year. So what does that mean for the future of physical game collecting and where we go from here? I think that we see support for the next 5 to 10 years of having a physical option sold alongside digital, but it will become more and more of a niche option and a niche market compared to what the masses adopt, especially if the gaming subscription services like Xbox Game Pass do really prove to be vastly profitable, and companies prefer to release their games on a guaranteed check for a subscription service and never have to ever market it as a full price $60, $70 release or whatever games are going to in the next generation of console games. I do tend to believe that when you look around and see Sony and Microsoft both hitting that $70 price point this year in 2023, as Microsoft has actually come out and said that they will raise their first party releases to a full $70, and Sony's already been doing it this entire generation. I think Nintendo's next up on that list when we talk about a Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever the true successor is to the Nintendo Switch. And at that point, you are getting really close to that $100 price point. You're going to be talking about things like a deluxe edition that comes with DLC and things, all of the content that you want in a game, realistically hitting that $100 price point. We are seeing that with Nintendo Switch games today, where a game like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 will come out and it's a $60 full price release, and at the same event that it is announced that the game will have this release date with this price, you also have an expansion pass that is outlined to bring new content to the game for 6 to 9 to 12 months, even further than that in some cases. And if you want all of that content, you spend an additional $30, and game DLC and expansion passes are nothing new, but we are seeing that model shift to more of a primary way to market games. And we're going to be talking about $100 price point for full game content complete experiences. And at that point, a $15 or $20 a month payment for a gaming subscription service looks a lot more appealing. And if the masses do tend to gravitate towards that, and all the companies see that that's where the money is at, there will be less and less motivation to pay production costs, try to figure out how much a game is going to sell to begin with, make that prediction number, and ramp up your factories to start pumping out all of these cartridges and disc-based options. And clearly they will opt for the easy road and the more profitable road, which is all digital. And again, I say all of this as somebody who is not excited about this being the only option going forward, but I do think we may be closer to it than we really realize, at least in the sense of we will probably have companies like Limited Run Games doing their special collector editions, physical releases, but it will become like the music stores and video stores of today. Where is Blockbuster? I grew up with Blockbuster everywhere. Netflix legitimately killed them. Now you have the streaming wars today with all of these different subscription services. I'm sure there's some people out there who have bought a CD, but let me know in the comments, when's the last time you bought a CD to listen to music instead of being signed up for something like YouTube Premium or Spotify or Apple Music, and you just listen to whatever music you want from any era of time because you've adapted to that marketing style that has become prevalent for the music and now movie industries. It's just apparent to me that gaming is next on that list, and while I hope we have an option to always buy things physically for the next 10, 15, 20 years, I can definitely see it being more of a quick cutoff than potentially that. Will we be talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 being digital only at its console core level? I definitely don't think so. I actually think that out of all the companies, being Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, that Nintendo will likely be the last one to fully hop onto a digital only storefront solution, but I do think they will do it one day once everyone has become fully accustomed to buying games that way. And when it's a 5% to 95%, or even like the PC market, 2% boxed and 98% digital, how are they going to see that as a big threat to release a digital only Nintendo Switch or whatever new hardware they'll have in the future? Well, they won't see it as a downside because it's more profit for them, and they might be alienating 2% or less of their user base which when you do the math on revenue that they're going to generate for selling the games themselves isn't a big hit to have at all. And when you talk about very cool companies that preserve game collecting like limited run games, that solution only works as long as the console has the option to read something that is physical media. If that option is ever taken away, then that business model does not work anymore, other than maybe they just get into creating a box art for you, but there's nothing in there and it comes with like a digital download code. That's one route they could go, but at that point, if you can't truly own the game and play it to its entirety, it's already kind of becoming less of an attractive option. And that's one real big problem that I see with all of these games that are shipped in unfinished states or with just a required day one patch. Once those servers go offline in the future, it is not like me booting up an N64 cartridge or even a GameCube disc where for sure that is the entire gameplay experience and that's all we can expect. It is actually a scenario that if you want to play a Nintendo Switch game 25 years in the future and you want to go down memory lane and remember what it was like, you might be missing things like the end game content and even the title screens like we saw mainline Pokemon games ship with, being Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl requiring over 1.5 GB download from a server when you first pop that cartridge in, because they just shipped the game without the title screens built in or the post-game content. That is how game developers are starting to do things in the modern era, and another avenue for them to complete the game closer to ship date and just push out that patch. And while I'm not a fan of that tactic, it is the reality of what we are seeing happen in the industry right now. And so it already makes that physical cartridge less important, if you will, as a whole, just because you're not really going to be able to boot up and experience a content complete game in a lot of cases nowadays in 2023 already. But I really want to hear from you guys on this particular topic. Are you personally somebody who has already gone to that all digital path for the convenience around it? Because I fully acknowledge, while I again am a physical collector myself because it's nostalgic for me and I enjoy it, I get the convenience of digital gaming. It is nice with some of the eShop only releases that I've picked up just to be able to switch between them and not have to go look for a game cartridge. Same thing for if I'm playing on my PlayStation 5 and I picked up a game digitally, it's nice to not have to go look for the disc. I totally get the convenience of it, but I really want to hear what you think about potentially not having a physical option one day, and whether or not you think it just should already be all digital, or if you think that physical should always be an option. And if you were a betting man or woman, how do you feel about how long the physical options last? Do you think that we have another 10 or 15, 20 years even of having this as a viable option to buy our video games? Or do you think that the buying trends show the writing on the wall and that it will be a sooner rather than later type of thing? And do you think gaming subscription services like Game Pass become the prominent way to experience games, or is this a one-off experiment that may not actually work for gaming as a whole? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch the weekend video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.